From penthouse suites to prison dorms, Sean Diddy Combs' fall from music mogul to federal inmate isn't just shocking, it's surreal. The man who once threw million-dollar parties, partied with presidents, and strutted through the Met Gala in diamond-covered shoes, now wakes up in a bunk bed at Fort Dix, a facility that some former inmates compare to a zoo, or worse, an insane asylum, and the stories coming out of that place, they're wild. Inmates reportedly stabbing each other over onions, bathrooms that barely work, food that's expired, and guards who turn a blind eye to all of it. So what's a man like Diddy, used to private jets and full control, supposed to do in a place like this? And that's not even the craziest part, because recently, something strange happened. His release date suddenly got pushed back by nearly a month, and rumors exploded. Some say he was busted with homemade prison alcohol after celebrating his birthday Fort Dix style. A charge his reps completely denied. So what's real, and what's not? How did one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop end up in a chapel library surrounded by broken toilets, midnight chaos, and unpredictable inmates? And what kind of survival strategy does someone like Diddy use when the spotlight is gone, and the walls start closing in? Well, today we're breaking it all down. From the trial that shattered his empire, to the brutal truth about what really goes on inside Fort Dix, and what might be waiting for him on the other side, if he ever makes it there. Because trust us, this isn't just another celebrity scandal. This is something far darker, and it all starts right here. At one point, Sean Diddy Combs wasn't just in the music industry, he was the music industry. The man built an empire from nothing. From humble beginnings in Harlem to founding Bad Boy Records in the early 90s, Diddy practically redefined what it meant to be a music mogul. He didn't just produce hits, he created icons. The Notorious B.I.G., Maze, Faith Evans, 112, they were more than just Billboard chart toppers, they were products of Diddy's vision, hustle, and relentless ambition. And then there was Diddy himself, always somewhere between entrepreneur, performer, and myth. Never far from the spotlight, he launched Sean John, his own fashion label, which raked in millions and even earned a CFDA award. He turned himself into a brand, appearing in CROC vodka ads, walking red carpets with A-list actors, hosting yachts in St. Bart's, and dating icons like Jennifer Lopez and Cassie. His lifestyle, private jets, palatial homes, and all-access passes to every VIP room in existence. To the outside world, Diddy seemed untouchable, a symbol of swagger, success, and raw influence. No matter the decade, no matter the controversy, he always came out on top. Even when whispers followed him about fights at clubs, lawsuits, sketchy deals, nothing stuck for long. The machine kept moving. The illusion held strong. But behind the scenes, something darker was simmering. You see, there were always questions, always critics, rumors that refused to die, stories that never fully emerged, allegations that vanished just as quickly as they arrived, and over time, that golden armor started to crack, because there was one long shadow that had always followed Diddy, and eventually, it caught up with him. For years, the rumors swirled around Sean Diddy Combs, whispered stories, anonymous claims, and online conspiracy threads that blurred the line between gossip and reality. But in 2024, the speculation became something else entirely. A federal case. It started when multiple civil lawsuits began surfacing, and fast. Former associates, employees, and women from Diddy's past stepped forward with disturbing claims, triggering a federal investigation that quickly expanded beyond what even his harshest critics expected. Diddy was accused of operating a sprawling underground network, involving manipulation, coercion, and exploitation, the kind of case the tabloids couldn't resist. Social media exploded, the headlines were relentless. But while the public was still figuring out what was real, prosecutors were building something much more calculated behind the scenes. When the trial finally began, Diddy pleaded not guilty to all charges. His legal team was aggressive, attempting to discredit accusers, calling the case a smear campaign. But the courtroom told a different story. In the end, he was found guilty on 2 counts of transporting individuals for the purpose of prostitution, a lesser charge than many expected, but still incredibly serious. Importantly, Diddy was not convicted of racketeering, conspiracy, or trafficking, charges that had drawn the most media heat early on. Still, the damage had been done both legally and publicly. Diddy was sentenced to 50 months behind bars, just over 4 years. And while some fans defended him passionately, accusing the justice system of targeting a powerful black entrepreneur, others felt differently. Some were vocal about their disgust, pointing to years of rumors that now felt impossible to ignore. Radio stations stopped playing his music. Brand partners quietly got. Industry peers who once praised him seemed silent, and that's when reality hit. This was no longer about headlines. Diddy wasn't dodging controversy. He was headed to prison. When the conviction landed, the music stopped, and his prison sentence began. After his sentencing, Sean Diddy Combs was first sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a grim, high-security holding facility known more for overcrowding and chaos than actual rehabilitation. It's the kind of place where even non-famous inmates struggle to stay safe, and for someone like Diddy, whose entire career was built on being larger than life, it was a dangerous mismatch from day one. He didn't stay there long. On October 30th, 2024, just weeks after his sentence began, Diddy was quietly transferred to FCI Fort Dix, a low-security federal prison in New Jersey. At first glance, that might sound like a break, a downgrade in security, maybe even a little more comfort, but nothing is ever that simple behind bars. The Bureau of Prisons offered no public explanation for the move, but among insiders, the speculation began immediately. Some say it was purely about profile, that Diddy was too high risk for general population in Brooklyn, with too much media heat and far too many enemies. Others claim the transfer offered him a slight edge, a somewhat cleaner facility, with fewer violent offenders and more structure for federal inmates with money and status. Fort Dix, after all, has seen its share of wealthy and well-known inmates. White-collar criminals, politicians, and even celebrities have served time there. But don't let the low-security label fool you. The living conditions aren't glamorous, and the inmates, not always predictable. Dorm-style housing, shared bathrooms, a rigid daily schedule. For a man used to controlling empires, his daily freedom now boils down to crossing names off a chore list and hoping his bunk neighbor doesn't snap. And this brings up the question Diddy's critics and supporters alike are wondering: was this transfer a form of protection, or punishment with a softer mask? Because while Fort Dix might not have razor-wire towers and solitary confinement blocks, what it does have might be even harder to manage. Personalities. And just because it's low doesn't mean it's low stress. If you're imagining Sean Diddy Combs spending his sentence in some relaxed white-collar lockup with personal TVs and quiet book clubs, think again. Fort Dix, despite being labeled a low-security facility, is far from comfortable and even further from controlled. The prison itself is aging. Think run-down dorm buildings with flickering lights, peeling paint, and HVAC systems that barely work. Former inmates describe it like a halfway house that forgot it was a prison, not secure enough to feel safe, not clean enough to feel stable. Each floor shares one bathroom, not one per cell per floor. That means dozens of men brushing their teeth over the same cracked sink, fighting for time in one of a handful of moldy, leaking stalls. The plumbing breaks constantly, and nobody's in a rush to fix anything. One inmate joked that using the bathroom at Fort Dix is a daily game of risk. And then there's the food. Expired cartons, mystery meat, and portions that wouldn't satisfy a kid. One former inmate claimed a lot of the food was rotten, like visibly green. Another said they'd rather eat soap than the Tuesday lunch rotation. But the most jarring thing, it's the unpredictability. Diddy isn't surrounded by brokers or Wall Street types. He's bunked in a dorm-style room with 9 other men, all from different backgrounds, many dealing with untreated mental health issues or addiction. According to multiple sources, everything's chaotic. There's very little oversight, and when weird things happen, the guards usually look the other way. One former inmate told the press, "I was here a day and a half, and I said to the guy next to me, 'This isn't jail, this is an insane asylum,' and he just laughed and said, 'Welcome to the zoo, homie.'" Now, to be fair, Diddy does reportedly keep a job in the chapel library helping other inmates with reading and paperwork. His rep claims he finds it comforting and rewarding. But once library hours are over, it's back to the chaos. And inmates don't care who you were in the outside world. If disrespect is felt, it's handled face to face, which brings us to one of the wildest moments ever reported at Fort Dix. A man was literally stabbed over an onion. Not money, not a fight, an onion. Because in this place, even the smallest thing can set someone off. If anyone knows what it's like to live inside Fort Dix while wearing a tabloid-sized target on your back, it's Joe Giudice, the former Real Housewives of New Jersey. Star did 41 months at the same facility, and according to him, Diddy needs to tread very carefully if he wants to make it out unscathed. Speaking to reporters, shortly after Diddy's transfer was confirmed, Giudice didn't sugarcoat a thing. His main piece of advice: if Diddy thinks he's gonna walk in there acting like a big shot, he's screwed. In Fort Dix, status means nothing. Fame doesn't protect you, and it especially doesn't impress the wrong kind of inmate. In fact, it can make you a target. Giudice explained that some people inside aren't just unpredictable, they're outright dangerous. One wrong comment, one flash of attitude, even wearing the wrong facial expression, it can turn into a problem fast. But that's not even the weirdest part. According to Giudice, what made Fort Dix memorable wasn't just the aggression, it was the total lack of supervision in certain corners. Guards often ignore what happens during overnight hours. Privacy is almost non-existent, except when people want to disappear. I got up at like 3 or 4 in the morning to use the bathroom, Giudice recalled, and I saw the craziest things. You would never imagine what goes on in there. Though he didn't get too detailed, he claimed that group sex involving inmates wasn't uncommon, and guards, they turned a blind eye, that it paints a picture of Fort Dix that's less like a sterile federal institution, and more like a barely controlled ecosystem, where rules are just suggestions and trouble lives in the blind spots. And Diddy, he's walking into this with more visibility, more wealth, and more controversy than nearly anyone in that prison, so even if he's not trying to act tough, the perception might be enough, because in Fort Dix, resentment runs deep and it doesn't take much to become a target, and that might be what Diddy's walking into every single night. With all the chaos being reported from inside Fort Dix, from expired meals and violent altercations to 3 a.m. bathroom horror stories, you'd expect Sean Diddy Combs to be barely hanging on. But according to his official spokesperson, that couldn't be further from the truth. They claim Diddy has carved out a surprisingly peaceful routine. He's not hiding, he's not struggling. In fact, they say he's helping others, according to the rep. Diddy works inside the prison's chapel library, assisting other inmates with reading, paperwork, and accessing religious and legal materials. He finds it calming, they explained. It's something he looks forward to each day, a space where he can breathe, think, and be of service. He's reportedly referred to by some inmates as a positive force, someone who's not trying to flex his fame or status, but someone simply trying to survive with dignity. It's a portrayal that directly contrasts everything we've heard so far: the inmate who allegedly got stabbed over an onion, the bathrooms held together by prayers, and Giudice's claims of complete sensory mayhem roaming the halls at night. So what gives? Is Diddy just playing the PR game, crafting an image of quiet reformation to counterbalance the darkness of his charges? Has his team filtered out the real grit to keep the press and the public on his side? Or could it actually be true? Because here's the thing most outsiders don't realize: both realities can exist at the same time. There are corners of Fort Dix where structure holds, where inmates find peace through work, religion, or routine, and then, just a whole way away, there are places where supervision disappears. Tempers boil over, and inmates turn feral. So when it comes to Diddy's incarceration, maybe the better question isn't which story is real, it's which version does Diddy really live in, and how long can he keep it that way? Sean Diddy Combs was originally set to walk out of prison on May 8, 2028. That's the official date listed, set locked in, but then, it changed. With no public explanation from prison officials, Diddy's new projected release date quietly moved to June 4, 2028, nearly a full month added to his sentence. And it didn't take long for rumors to fill in the gap. According to multiple unverified reports, Diddy may have slipped up and on perhaps the worst day possible. The story goes like this. Around the time of his birthday, on November 4th, just days after his transfer to Fort Dix, Diddy allegedly celebrated in a way that absolutely breaks prison protocol with homemade alcohol, the kind brewed in secret, passed under bunks, and made from fruit, sugar, and determination. It's the kind of thing that circulates in federal facilities all the time. Make your own moonshine, act like nothing happened, hope if you get caught, it's a slap on the wrist. But for someone of Diddy's status, any violation could mean real consequences, especially if it makes its way into records tied to release eligibility or facility behavior logs. Now here's where it gets cloudy. Diddy's family and his spokesperson flat out deny the incident ever happened. They say the alcohol story is fabricated, and that no such infraction occurred. They haven't offered a reason for the changed release date either, just that something behind the scenes must have shifted. But until official documentation is made public, which it might never be, the speculation isn't going anywhere. And in a prison environment like Fort Dix, where rumors travel faster than the guards, where respect and reputation are often all you have, this kind of story true or not, can change everything. Did Diddy just get too comfortable too quickly? Did fame get the best of him again, even behind bars? Or did someone inside the system simply make that call? For reasons we'll never know. Because if the story is true, then one night of quiet celebration, a single moment of feeling free, may have just cost him 27 more days of being caged. For nearly 3 decades, Sean Diddy Combs controlled everything: the music, the business, the narrative, and even the people around him. He was surrounded 24/7 by assistants, bodyguards, handlers, and yes-men who made sure he moved through the world like a king. Private jets, 5-star hotels, last-minute demands, executed without question. Power was not something Diddy had to ask for. It was baked into his daily life. And in an instant, that power was gone. No entourage, no privacy, no influence. Now, his every move is watched by guards, tracked by security cameras, and disciplined with zero leniency. His world has shrunk to shared dorms, strict routines, fluorescent lights, and toilets he has to wait in line to use. For someone with Diddy's reputation, that's not just a lifestyle change, it's a psychological shockwave. Let's be clear. Fame means nothing inside a place like Fort Dix. The guards don't care that he headlined global tours. The inmates don't care that he's worth hundreds of millions. In fact, to some, his fame makes him a magnet, a target of resentment, mockery, or manipulation. Every reaction is scrutinized. Every misstep is an opportunity for someone else to flex. So how does a man like that cope? Is Diddy adapting with humility, laying low and learning the structure, as some reports claim? Or is he privately crumbling under the silence, haunted by a mind that's never known restraint? Now, slamming against concrete walls, it's not hard to imagine the emotional toll a man used to commanding stages, now raising his hand just to speak, used to handpicking who entered his orbit, now forced to bunk next to strangers, used to dictating his narrative, now living someone else's schedule hour by hour. Even mentally strong inmates have been broken by less. And while Diddy may be publicly projecting calm, helping in the chapel library, keeping his head down, no one can say for sure what the internal reality looks like behind closed cell doors. Because when you build your identity on control and success, losing it all doesn't just hurt your reputation, it rips at the core of who you are. And Diddy may not just be serving time, he could be slowly unraveling. And even if he survives the sentence, what kind of world will Diddy return to? For years, Sean Diddy Combs was untouchable, not just commercially, but culturally. He wasn't just part of hip-hop, he was the blueprint. Everything from his business mentality to his extravagant lifestyle reshaped what it meant to be a mogul in music. But after everything that's happened, the criminal conviction, the prison sentence, and the avalanche of disturbing allegations, his empire isn't just frozen, it's fractured. Many of his collaborators, some of whom once credited him for starting their careers, have gone radio silent. There have been no public statements, no signs of support, and no digital breadcrumbs indicating they're waiting for his return. In the music industry, silence can be louder than cancellation. Fashion partnerships that once lined Diddy's pockets, gone. Brand deals that exalted him as a tastemaker, quietly dropped. Investors have pulled back, corporate allies have distanced themselves. Suddenly, Sean John isn't a headline, it's history. And online, the culture war around his downfall grows louder every day. Some fans, especially longtime loyalists, still cling to the narrative of conspiracy or redemption. They see the trial as a takedown of a successful black businessman, one they believe was targeted by a system that never accepted his power. But others aren't so forgiving. Comment sections are flooded with phrases like "he's finished," "he had everyone fooled," and "there's no coming back from this." And here's the question no one in the music world wants to answer out loud, but everyone is thinking: if or when Diddy gets out, will hip-hop even take him back? In the past, artists have bounced back from shame. Some have even spun controversy into comeback narratives that made them bigger than before. But this isn't just a controversial lyric or a headline scandal. This is federal prison. This is a legacy rewritten in real time. And even if the public forgets, the industry doesn't always forgive, especially when there's someone younger, hungrier, and cleaner waiting to take your place. So now, the question looms: can Diddy bounce back and reclaim what he built? Or has the curtain finally closed on one of hip-hop's most powerful dynasties? Once Sean Diddy Combs was the man no one could touch. He owned your radio dial, influenced your fashion, dominated your parties, and made the industry orbit around him. Magazine covers called him a trailblazer. His peers called him a legend, and fans, they called him unstoppable. But that feels like a lifetime ago now. Because today, Diddy wakes up in a shared dorm with 9 strangers, on a plastic mattress, in a place where even onions can start a stabbing. No more private jets or yacht vacations, no personal chefs, no private security, just low-grade food, strict count times, and the eerie quiet of 4 years in the system. His name might still carry weight outside the walls, but inside Fort Dix, he's just inmate #87946-054. And as powerful as the trial was, as loud as the media circus roared when the allegations first dropped, the silence that's followed has been even louder. Where are the celebrity defenders now? Where are the rallies, the outcries, the big public showings of support? They're gone, because in a world where stars rise fast and fall even faster, what people don't say often speaks louder than what they do. And this brings us to the final, uncomfortable question, not just about Diddy, but about the culture that made him. Is this the sound of justice finally catching up? Or is it the chilling reminder that no amount of fame, fortune, or legacy can shield you forever? Let's open it up to you. What really happened behind closed doors, before the fall? Do you think Diddy deserves a second chance? Or has he already had more than enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take on this wild, unbelievable chapter in hip-hop history. Because one thing is clear, this isn't just the story of a celebrity downfall, this is a warning whispered from behind prison walls, hidden behind endorsements and contracts that none of it lasts forever. Not the parties, not the power, and not the people,